And we are live. We're live. Welcome on your TV screens there in Texas and Louisiana. We're on the Smart Money Culture TV network, as well as joining around the world, streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and more. There's a lot going on today. We just had, of course, yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to try and take out, or maybe she decided to pull back her bid to take out the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. I understand her frustration 100%, but once, of course, Trump said, let the guy be, leave him alone, of course, she backed off, which was the proper, I would say, mode of action. I do not blame her one bit. If I was there in Congress, I would be raising heck as well. This guy has, his first speech out, right? I mean, you knew. I mean, he didn't say he was going to help us or anything else. His first thing that he was going to do wasn't even about us. It was about a foreign country. So you knew that was going to be cooked. And he has really, really, really been a letdown, hasn't he? I mean, my gosh, really has been too bad how that's going. It has been pretty much par for the course. I will say that. That's how things operate here in Washington. As you guys know, we do this show every day. And so we get to talk about the things that matter to you. And these guys here in Washington, they are not working for you. They don't have to work for you. I talked to one of my old friends yesterday, and we got to catch up a bit and went kind of back and forth. And it's interesting, of course, because I'm in it, and I'm here in Washington D.C. and really I have my finger on the pulse of what's going on, right? But it's interesting to talk to other people that think that are they still under the impression that everything's going to be okay, that there's people behind the scenes that are working and they're going to fix everything. Guys, I am here to tell you, I don't wake up at 5 a.m. every morning for no reason. I am here to tell you that is not happening. If that was happening, I wouldn't be waking up at 5 a.m. and going on TV every morning. It wouldn't be happening. I would be collecting my money and doing something else, okay? There is nobody that is going to save you except yourself. Everybody in Congress, we have a situation, of course, and I've seen a lot of people, some of my friends are starting to now post about different things, when the Federal Reserve started and how that, what kind of effect that had on the country. But there's still, they have bits and pieces, and we're starting to put it together. But there's still a lot more that has gone on, and the reason why we don't have any power right now. Everybody in Congress, they're not worried about you voting for them. Why are they not worried about you voting for them? Well, they're not worried about you voting for them because they don't need you to vote for them. They have the magic electronic voting machines, and they have the mail-in ballots. So as long as they do the right thing and they don't make the wrong people mad at them, they're going to be fine. They don't really have to worry about anything. And not only that, but what they do have to worry about is the cartel. We have a banking cartel that basically runs the country, most of the countries of the world. They have to worry about getting assassinated or whatnot by these people. I mean, John F. Kennedy was assassinated 6 months after he tried to put us on the silver standard. Good day, Dr. Oleg. Always great to see you, sir. You. And so that those are real things. And if you want to win, you don't want to buck these people. You don't want to go against these people, right? And so that's what they have to worry about. And that's why when you see a guy like Speaker Mike Johnson, who everybody voted for, it was very clear what was going to happen because everybody voted for him. Everybody voted for him. He got like 100% of the vote. The only way you get 100% of the vote is by telling everybody or them knowing that you're going to do what they want you to do. I mean, that's pretty clear, right? I mean, that's the way it works. So he got 100% of the vote, and he's sold us out 100% of the time. But one of the things in my conversation yesterday with my old friend was explaining how the intricacies of why these people don't have to answer to us like at all. And the other part of it is that the central bank just fronts the paper money. And so when they front the paper money, all they're doing is they're taxing you. They're taxing you on the front end and the back end, but a lot of the printing comes out of you from inflation, okay? But if Congress had to come to you and knock on your door or send you an email or a mail or snail mail or whatever else and say, hey, listen, for this $100 billion, I need another $500 per person in your household. So for average home, I think it's still 2 kids, right? To $2,000 more. I need $2,000 more from you this month. And they're doing that about every 2 months, right? Every 2 or 3 months, they pass another bill to send another $100 billion off to Israel and the Ukraine. But if they had to knock on your door, you would say no. You would say no. But they don't have to knock on your door, and they don't have to mail you, and they don't have to just seize the money out of your account, because the country was overthrown in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act, and they can tax you as much as they want. They can just take whatever they want because the central bank says, no problem, here you go, here's the money. Don't worry. And when I say here's the money, it's not, the thing is, if it was gold or if it was Bitcoin or something like that, then it would matter. But they just print it up. And the Treasury, actually, the U.S. Treasury actually prints it. So the Federal Reserve doesn't even pay for the printing. They actually make about 3%. So it's a money-making proposition for them. So when I say they front the money, they don't really front the money. They just give them some paper money, some monopoly money to go use, and then you get taxed for it on the back end. And some people are starting to figure it out, and I really need you guys to really start figuring it out, because we have to change it. We're going to get taxed into non-existence here. And not only that, we're funding a lot of things that we don't want to do. You can look at what's happening right now in Israel, and whether you want them to keep bombing or not, I don't want them to keep bombing, okay? You know what I mean? I want war to stop. I want it to stop. Both sides. I want both sides to stop. But if we stop funding the war, if we stop sending them bombs, same thing over in the Ukraine, if we stop sending bombs and armament and money to Ukraine, guess what? The war stops. But if we keep sending bombs to Ukraine and Israel and money and everything else, the war continues. And we see right now we have a kind of a cessation maybe coming out now. Well, they might not go forward with their plans because the U.S. is holding back on some armaments or this and that and the other. And I know people are really emotional about that. I don't really want to get into it too much. But if we stop the funding, then we stop the wars. And here's the thing, guys. Every time they send one of those $100 billion bills, it costs you about $500 per person in your house. So on top of the other taxes that you're already paying, it's a massive amount of tax. And again, when they front the money, they're just fronting the paper. They're just fronting paper or digital, whatever. And then they take it from you. So this mechanism that they have, that they set in 1913 with the central bank, is now they legally can tax you whatever they want. And that's why if you bought $100,000 worth of gold, or $100,000 worth of real estate, or $100,000 worth of silver, or whatever else, silver has been a little bit more up and down or all around. 50 years ago, you have a lot more value now because your currency has been diluted into almost non-existence. Now, that being said, going back to my my conversation with my friend, it's going to crash. It's going to crash. I've been saying it's going to crash for 10 years. Okay. I have gotten to the point now to where the other part of this is that since they can tax you as much as you want and 95% of the population doesn't even realize that they're being taxed. They can keep the bill floating. They can keep the US dollars floating. They can tax you relentlessly no matter what. If they need an extra $1,000 this week, they take it. If they need an extra $5,000 next month, they take it. So, will the dollar crash anytime soon? I don't think so. Now it's going to keep getting devalued and devalued and devalued as you get taxed more and more and more and more from the central bank. But crash, how can it crash when they can just tax you as much as you want? Would you go broke if you could tax 330 million people whenever you wanted? Please tell me if the central bank currently controls large transfers to the Ukraine. I understand you're in the Ukraine, so you might be a little biased, my friend. and I understand totally. I really do. The central bank, they make up all the money. So Congress or them, I mean, the central bank pretty much controls, not pretty much, I mean, they control the US. They basically own the United States and most of the countries of the world. And so Congress can decide, and they'll put a lot of pressure on them to do whatever. And they just mint up the money, and it's either digital or they print it up. You saw Obama used to like to send cash over there, and we do too. The current administration, they just don't talk about it as much. And yeah, they're in charge of that stuff. Now, who does the final transfer? I don't know. You know what I mean? But yeah, they're behind it. And that central banking cartel took over the United States. And that question, just so people, if you weren't looking at your screen, from our friend Dr. Oleg, please tell me if the central bank currently controls the large transfers to the Ukraine. They're behind it, of course, as well to Israel and to Taiwan and to Palestine and to everywhere else. That's just the way it works. In 1913, in the dead of night on December 23rd, they passed the Federal Reserve Act. We weren't supposed to have a central bank, and that took the power, gave the power of the purse over to the central banking cartel. It didn't take long, and in 1933, they confiscated everybody's gold, and they took everyone's gold. And who did they give it to? They gave it to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the central banking cartel. They call it a Federal Reserve to make you think that it's federal, but it's nothing federal about it. It's a privately held entity. And they have been devaluing, and we've been basically at conflict ever since. So 1913, they started that. We went to World War I in 1914. The IRS was also started in 1913. What else? They ratified income tax in 1913. They passed what gave them themselves to legally tax us in like 1908. It was ratified 1908, 1909. They ratified in 1913. And here we are, 110 years later, 111 years later, and you can feel it. You can feel it. People don't realize, you don't realize how broke you are. You don't realize. You work all the time. You work every day, all day. You work hard, more than likely. And you still complain that this is more expensive, that's more expensive, everything else. And that's because you're getting stolen from all the time. You're getting stolen. You're getting the money that's stolen, and it's sent over to do the things that you don't even want to do. And it's paying for the migrants that are coming over here illegally. It's like $1.3 billion a day or something crazy like that we're paying to house and feed the migrants that have come in. And those migrants, I mean, it's obvious, very obviously to me, in my opinion, just it's changing the vote. We had more migrants come in this year than we had new babies born. I think that's the first time it's ever happened. So whether they are voting in this election, you see Congress comes out and they say, oh, no, don't worry, we're still good guys. Here's the new bill. We're going to make sure no one, can vote if they entered illegally, or unless they're a citizen or something like that. No enforcement of that, guys. It's not going to happen. Nothing will change. Probably won't even pass. Just all just placating to everybody. I have never seen so many people just want to save face. I mean, but the problem is that most of the electorate, most of the people voting, you're too busy. And I get it. They're too busy to understand. And how can you understand? And is it really that bad? Anyway, markets are mixed today. We got Dow futures are down. Silver is up. Gold's down. Bitcoin's down. Looks about poised for a bounce. Let's bring on the great Matt Dixon, see what he has to say. Sir Matt.
Hello, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. I've been looking at an interesting token today. Nice. So the TON token, have you heard of TON coin?
Oh, how could I not hear of it? That thing ran up the charts. I'm like, what is this TON coin?
Yeah, so I'm going to share screen. We'll take a look at the chart, see what that has to tell us. But it's actually very interesting. Let me just see. I trust you can see my screen there.
Yes, sir.
So the TON token actually started out and it had some legal issues. And then I think it's 2020, it became, first of all, it started out as a proof of work token. And they saw this as the most decentralized way to distribute the token through miners who mined the token through proof of work. And then once all the tokens have been created or mined, there was 5 billion tokens that were mined. And then they turned into a proof of stake token. So it's actually very, very efficient, and the costs, and it does some amazing things, really efficient token. It's actually born out of Telegram technology. So we know the Telegram social media app that an awful lot of people use, very, very efficient and a great way to communicate. So it was actually born out of their headquarters. That's where the token was born. As I say, they had some legal issues. They then went to proof of work to mine these 5 billion tokens, and now they're proof of stake. And it actually looks really interesting. They're right up on the, in terms of the valuation. I mean, I'll just have a very quick look where they're at. They're ranked number 9 now.
Yeah, they just moved up. And actually, what's interesting about this is when this was first coming out and they were first talking about this, I remember getting hit with it. Now that you're kind of explaining the whole scheme, I remember.
Yeah. I mean, even today, I mean, I'm just looking, actually, they're at number 9. There's only 2 tokens in the top 9 that are in positive territory today. And one of them is our old favorite BNB, who we've said is actually an outperformer lately. And the other one is the TON token. And TON is up today on a down day where even Bitcoin is down 2.3%. We've got the TON token up over 4% today. And it's looking really promising. So we'll just have a little look here at the chart formation, the chart pattern, and see where it's at. So this is from the beginning of the price. And I've counted this. I've actually tried to count it as an impulsive move up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when you look at Elliott wave rules, the third wave is not allowed to be the shortest wave. So this cannot be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's some kind of A wave. Basically, it's made up of not 5 waves. It's basically a combination. So it's a corrective wave higher up in A. We have a correction down in B. The B wave correction down is really accurate from Fibonacci perspective. So starting from the A at the top, the red A, we measure down to this blue A. We measured that, and then we just transpose the top of this B wave here and place the Fibonacci measurement just there, just about there. And that gave us precisely 100% gave us the bottom of the C wave, which again is absolutely amazing. If you saw that measurement and then you saw the price moving down here, you just transpose your Fibonacci measuring tool to there, and you get the bottom of the market to within a tiny fraction. So you could have jumped in there with a really close stop loss, looking for some upside, and that price there was $4.50, and the price right now is $5.9. So you could be protecting your position now. But just to break it down further, so that's a big A wave up, a big B wave down. We would now expect to have a big C wave to the upside, so a massive movement to the upside, probably somewhere in comparison, or in sort of kind of in comparison with this A wave, sort of a big move to the upside potentially, but certainly I would expect it to go above the top of the A wave. And the A wave was at $7.68, and we're currently 5.9. So still, even if you went there and took profits there or protected your position there, it's really attractive. So we can then just open it out a little bit to look at from the bottom that we saw in price, which we marked it out quite nicely as the C wave. We've moved up really nicely in 5 waves here, with the third wave now being correct as it's supposed to be. The third wave is supposed to be the big impulsive wave normally. And so we have wave 1 up, 2 down, big wave, big powerful impulsive wave 3 up, wave 4 down. And the wave 4 itself is actually a little ABC, which is perfect. A little bit different to the second wave. There is a rule of alternation, so they need to look different, basically, have a different form to them. And that's precisely what's happened here. So perfect Elliott wave impulse to the upside here. And then if you broke it down to a shorter time frame, you'll see there's a very nice 5 waves within this 5th wave, completing a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a larger wave 1. And then we've moved down. I think we've had 3 waves down for wave A. Now, it is possible it's complete, but it's actually doubtful it's complete. So I think that movement down, instead of being a completed correction, is probably just the A wave. We've had a B wave up, and I think we're pushing down today, beginning to push down today in a C wave, which shouldn't go that much lower, but it should probably go below this A wave, below the start of this A wave here. Sorry, below the end of the A wave here. It should actually go probably below that, a little bit below. So perhaps short term, a little bit of downside, and I think the market may drag it down a bit. We'll see. But following that, if it goes down there, that for me would be a really attractive buy area. If we see 3 down, 3 up, and then 5 down, so we can look for 5 waves in this C wave down, that would be what's called a flat correction. So we can see very clearly A, B, C for 3 waves down. We can actually see quite clearly A, B, C for 3 waves up for the B wave. So a 3, you'd then probably expect a 5 wave move to the downside for what's called a flat correction to complete the move down. And then we would expect some really powerful impulsive move to the upside. I think that is going to coincide with, I think, the turnaround back to the upside. I personally believe, there's no guarantees, but I believe it will be in time or in tune with the CPI news coming out next week on the 15th. So this is the inflation news that's due out of the US. I personally believe the inflation is going to start dropping away. Let's see. If I'm correct, that will be a great impetus for the market to push to the upside. So from that, I think TON is looking really attractive. Now we can look at divergence as well. And I've drawn in the dotted lines here to show you where we draw from the peak in price here to the peak in price here. So that's the 2 adjacent peaks. And then we draw the corresponding, and that's why I've drawn dotted lines in, the corresponding lines for the peaks in the RSI, which is, you can use any oscillator, but I particularly like to use RSI. So RSI here, the peak there to the peak there. So you can see that the price has a downward slope and the RSI has an upward slope, and that's what's called divergence. But this is basically not conventional, not regular divergence. This is what's known as hidden divergence. So we're seeing basically a fall away in price peaks and an increase in RSI peaks. What that actually tells you, what the signal is telling you, is that it's going to be a continuation of downside from here. So if you've been watching this 5 waves up here, and then you saw this hidden bearish divergence, you'd know that price is about to turn here, and it turned precisely there. And then we've seen a reasonable amount of downside in the form of ABC. So that told you if you were long on this asset here, and we could have easily been long, because remember, we measured the A wave and calculated exactly where the C wave is going to go to, 100%. So if you've been on this trade to the long side, you know exactly where to take your profits, because you can see divergence in place. So these are trading tips, trading tools, stuff that traders use to know when to enter a trade, but it's just as important to know when to exit the trade to get the maximum profit, and not wait for it to come back and waste some of that profit, but actually use indicators, use powerful tools to inform you and help you. So as I say, ideally, I'd like to see a small 5-way move down here. And then I think if we see softer CPI, we're going to get a blast to the upside. So let's see if that happens. Bitcoin, we'll just jump into that. It's dipped just below my target so far, and it may dip a bit lower. So the rules are, we had a triangle, I believe, here, which is the ABCDE triangle with the E wave overshooting. Then we've had an impulse to the upside, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in blue, making a larger wave 1. Now wave 2 can theoretically retrace all of wave 1. So in actual fact, the wave 2 could come down as low as 56,500 and something, theoretically. I think that's extremely unlikely because the fundamental drivers, price drivers, and even the technicals behind Bitcoin are very, very strong at the moment. And I think we're probably just treading water, selling off maybe just ahead of this CPI news next week. Maybe even, there's just a lack of news at the moment. We've got no particular economic data coming out of the US. There's no particular positive or negative news. So just treading water a bit, and the price is just drifting, and it's drifting in a corrective fashion. So it's very overlapping, unlike this impulse here. So I think that we're probably reasonably close to the end of the correction, maybe a touch further. So again, this would probably be, maybe this one's a 5-3-5 move to the downside, which is what's called a zigzag correction, different to the ton coin, which was having a flat correction. So this zigzag correction potentially may have a touch lower to go, but if this is the correct interpretation, cannot go below this level here, 56,000 and odd. So I think we'll probably see a turn up reasonably soon. And as I say, my target, as I said yesterday, and I've been saying for some time, I do really believe we're going to reach new all-time highs for Bitcoin. But if this is the triangle, it's pre-terminal. This will be a terminal wave thrust to the upside, taking us, I believe, to new all-time highs. And then we should at least get a reasonable pullback before then we decide. We'll look at the wave counts, we'll look at the indicators, we'll look at the fundamentals, and then we decide which way it goes from there. But once we reach the new all-time high, I would expect a decent pullback. And as I say, then we decide where we're going from there. So the whole market is at the moment little bit pulling back a little bit. So even here with the DXY dollar index, a little bit undecided at the moment. We've got a slightly negative candle there, which maybe we'll get a little bit of downside on DXY, which maybe what turns crypto and Bitcoin around again. But nothing really to tell us there at the moment. Price is fairly stable. It's waiting for a price driver, and that next price driver, unless we see a geopolitical issue, is going to be the CPI news. I think we've got PPI news actually the day before. That will also be a driver, but PPI, CPI being the really important one, that is what's going to, throw the cat amongst the pigeons, as it were, and get the prices moving.
And just for everybody, CPI is the core inflation data. What is the PPI?
Producer price index. So again, it's related to prices, so it's actually producer prices. So again, they're both a kind of measure of inflation, really, about how much people have to pay, whether it's producers, whether it's retail, whatever. It's a measure of prices. So they're very, very important. That is what's going to make the Fed or drive the Fed to either stick on its existing policy, which is at the moment the highest interest rates in 23 years, sticking to those high interest rates, not able to reduce them because inflation has been sticky. But if we see softer inflation, CPI, PPI next week, then that will give the Fed room to maneuver to potentially lower rates a bit, and that will give the market a real boost. And that's probably what Biden would want to see. So maybe they've timed everything perfectly, who knows? But they would obviously want to see the markets looking booming ahead of the election in November, isn't it?
Yep, November 5th.
November the 5th, bonfire night, as we have in the UK.
What is it now?
It's called Bonfire Night, Guy Fawkes, and it was actually, it's many years back, this guy who did a plot to blow up, I think, the Houses of Parliament at the time, so it was an anti-government thing at the time, and this guy plotted to blow them up, and they actually burnt him, executed him, burnt him on a bonfire.
Oh, wow.
We actually remember that every November the 5th in the UK. as Guy Fawkes Night. The guy's name was Guy Fawkes. He was the guy who tried to overturn the government at the time and blow up the Houses of Parliament. So we remember it every November the 5th. It's a big event in the UK. But I guess,
Wow.
yeah. So they actually put
what year was that?
Oh, wow. I don't know what year it was. It's probably in the 1600s, was it? Or I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say they don't burn people anymore. Yeah, it's been a while since anybody got burned.
For a few years, but not that long ago. Really interesting.
Not public like that anyway. I mean, we drone them now, I guess. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to see if I can see the date when it was. It doesn't actually. Okay, it's not far out. So did I say 1600 or something? It's 1570. Yeah, 1570, Guy Fawkes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, that was his life, 1570 to 1631. So actually, yeah, it was the 1600s. So I was right. It's actually 1605. I don't know quite how it gets there, but it's 1605. It's called the Gunpowder Plot. And basically, that was a plot to blow up the Houses of Parliament. Understand? Anyway,
yep.
Yeah. So that's our November the 5th. So, yeah, moving on. With SPX, again, a little bit no man's land at the moment, a little bit like crypto. We're drifting a little bit, but it's kind of sideways choppy. I think if we get the soft CPI news, I'm probably the only person who's actually saying we're going to get soft CPI news. So I hope I'm right. I've not heard anybody else say it. I think that we've seen enough signs to show the economy slowing dramatically. And there is normally a relationship, obviously, between the economy and between prices. So if the economy is beginning to weaken a bit, they can't really be pushing up prices when people actually can't afford it. And as you actually said anyway, people's sort of household spending and everything has really been squeezed, you were saying, that people have so much less money available because they've been, the price of things has gone up so much, and not just by the inflation rate that they announce with CPI, but the cost of a lot of things that they don't even measure, like insurances and just day-to-day things that you have to pay, have gone up dramatically more than that. So people's purses have been really squeezed, means they've got less money to spend. So if there's less money to spend and the economy is slowing, as we saw from GDP figures falling dramatically, that was really dramatic. That was a massive fall that we had last week. And then the employment as well, falling dramatically. So there's going to be less money to spend. So people are not going to be able to raise prices when there's less money around. So it stands to reason, as far as I'm concerned, that inflation will begin to fall. And as we said, we have seen oil falling recently. It picked up just a little bit. That's the 4 hour. It has picked up a bit. But even so, it's still way below what it was, a week or so ago. We're still well below that. Not quite sure what the reason for that pickup is. I didn't hear actually what the latest news was out of Israel and Ukraine, when there's any issues there. But something has obviously driven that price up a little bit there.
Yep.
So, yeah, we looked at Bitcoin. As I say, I'm really positive on that. Litecoin has been one that's really shone out lately, because we've seen the fall away in most of the cryptos. Litecoin is actually one of those. I think Litecoin is ranked round about number 20, somewhere around there. It just actually flipped. Was it ICP actually? I think it flipped just recently on the market cap. So
wow.
It and ICP have, ICP, you can see ICP is in reverse. So ICP was down 1.28% today. It's actually down to $11.8. So it's come down quite a bit recently, whereas Litecoin has actually been holding on really well. It's up 0.87%. It's one of those few which is in positive territory at $82. So it flipped ICP by quite a big chunk. In fact, overnight, it flipped it by $500 million on the market cap.
Wow.
So that just shows two assets where the price is moving in the opposite direction.
Well, and like I always say, Litecoin is the second most accepted coin in the world. Basically, when they were putting out all the terminals, when they were this mass, movement to get people and places to accept Bitcoin, it was never just Bitcoin. It was Bitcoin and Litecoin. So Litecoin is the second most accepted coin in the world. I still think it's going to $1,000. Of course, I thought that years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's every chance. I mean, it's actually built pretty much on the same pattern as Bitcoin, and we've looked at it before. That basically the mining is, I think you get half the reward for. I can't remember. I went through it the other day, but basically it's very, very similar pattern to Bitcoin, just a slight variation. I think is it 4 times more tokens in circulation?
Yeah, it's about that 84 million, I think, something like that is the max.
Yeah, that's right. So it's 4 times the amount in circulation and a quarter of the mining reward. So yeah, that's the way it works. So yeah, it's very solid foundation because it is built on the very same model really as Bitcoin. Just slight differences now in the way it's validated. Yeah, we've also seen. I mean, you can just see the difference really. By the way, with same time frame, so 4 hour, we can see Litecoin pumping to the upside, and Ethereum similar way to the downside really. And I think that's possibly because Ethereum has been in the spotlight. It's been in the crosshairs of the SEC, and it's one of those that they're targeting and saying that because Ethereum is basically proof of stake, they're saying it's a security because they're saying effectively all these proof of stake coins, if you hold the coin, you effectively get paid. You can get paid for doing nothing. And I think that's the definition of a security, one of the definitions. I know there's a special defined definition, but the fact that you can hold something like a share, like a stock, and you just get paid for holding it because the work is done, you don't have to do the work yourself. And that's the same with proof of stake. If you just hold a stake and stake the asset, you get rewarded. So that's why they're labeling it as a security. So all of these proof of stakes are under pressure, potentially being called securities. And then you've got those mineable ones, like Bruce's token is a mineable token. I say Bruce's. What's your token again, Bruce?
What is one? The doggy coin?
No,
my coin is Global Boost. Global Boost. Yes.
Global Boost. That's the one. Yeah, that's a mineable token. So that should continue to be treated as a utility. So it should be absolutely safe from the SEC.
Yes.
So same with Bitcoin. Same with the mineable tokens. They should be safe. So I think I mentioned it when we were talking about Toncoin. It's actually started off as a mineable token. They mined all the tokens, then they moved over to proof of stake. I did mention it, but proof of stake is kind of more efficient, certainly more energy efficient in a lot of ways. When you're mining, you actually have to expend a lot of energy to solve complicated algorithms, etc., complicated mathematical things. That's what miners do to earn their reward, to earn the opportunity to validate a particular mining block. And so it takes energy for this computing power. So there's a lot of Bitcoin mining in areas where energy is very cheap. So for example, in Abu Dhabi here, they've got some of the biggest gas supplies in the world, I think. Energy is really, really cheap. And so they have a lot of mining because apart from the actual cost of running the computer, one of the big things is actually cooling the computers because these computers produce a lot of heat. So they do mining in places where energy is cheap, but also where it's very cold. So you will find, in the Arctic regions, there's also a lot of mining goes on there because they can very cheaply cool the computers, and that's where a lot of the energy is used. So that's why the proof of work is less energy efficient than proof of stake. But the SEC are going after proof of stake. So there's swings and roundabouts, I guess.
So I have Zoltan Rendez as well. So right at the 40-minute mark, I'd like to start. This is our interview from Paris Blockchain Week. Okay,
perfect. So yeah, I'm happy to close up. I mean, just finalize with gold, I guess. We're still on very corrective move to the downside. I think we are sitting on, so we've got here the 50, the 100, the 200. We're actually sitting on the 200. This is on the 4 hour, but the 200 moving average. It's not the 200 day. If you went on to the daily, you can actually see it's very different on the daily. We're not even down to the 50 yet, but you can look at these moving averages. The daily is one of the more important ones. We haven't even touched the 50 moving average, but this would likely be support. If you were to touch the 50 moving average on the daily, 50-day moving average, that would likely be good support. So we see here an A, a B. The C wave may actually come somewhere around that 50-day moving average. That's a green line here. That would be really good support. I do think gold is, as I got shown by my arrow here, that we're going to push further to the upside, new all-time highs on gold. But even there's potentially, as I say, even on the 4 hour, which is the 200 moving average here, we're sitting virtually on it. So there's actually some support around this level. So there's many different areas of support. But that would be
Awesome.
a good one. So we'll finish up on gold. Thanks for today.
Thank you.
Keep an eye on
absolutely wonderful. I have
October.
this Zoltan Rendez got an amazing project here. We met at Paris Blockchain Week, and pretty interesting. They just finished also as well some of their tokenomics, and they're ready to go. So pretty interesting project that they have here. I'm going to play this interview. This is from Paris Blockchain Week.
At the end. And we are back here at the Paris Blockchain Week. Wonderful time. A lot of really interesting people. I have with me here Zoltan Rendez, and he was just telling me, I miss being on the camera, and his former lives and everything else. Pretty interesting guy. He's with the Sun Money Solar Group, which I have to tell you, when this first came in and I saw it come across, and actually when I reached out to you guys initially, that this is going to be a cool one. So tell me a little bit about Sun Money Solar Group and what brought you here to the Paris Blockchain Week.
Hello, and it's great to be here. And thank you for inviting me on the show. Sun Money Solar Group was established 11 years ago. So we are a very major company. Like when they, when they ask us here at the Paris Blockchain Week, like, okay, do you have already on the market a proof of concept? Yeah, 11 years of it. So we are a renewable energy investment company. What we do and what we did in the fiat world, in the normal money world, is that we build or buy solar power plants and we let people to buy in.
Okay.
And we maintain and support the parts for them, and we sell the electricity on their behalf.
Okay.
And everybody gets their revenues every month based on the size of their share. So pretty easy. And the company is based in Dubai. And in 2022, we started to explore blockchain as a vessel for the same kind of business model, basically building community solar power program on blockchain. And we did the pilot, which was a roaring success.
Yeah.
And we ended up focusing a lot on our token SDBN, which is a new company in addition to the group in the crypto zone of Dubai in DMCC, under fully regulated zone.
Yep.
And so we are doing the same business model in the tokenized world, the tokenized asset world. I think we jumped on the wave when there was really no wave yet. And it was good, like the trends kind of caught up with us. So we are promoting SDBN 3 now. It's the third phase of the token. And we kind of love the ease and transparency of the blockchain world compared to the fiat world.
Right.
And it's a whole new type of clients.
Yep.
We have like 50,000 clients from 60 countries in the world. This is a whole new era for us. So very new dynamics from clients and users, and building a community. We have a huge follower base. Like 1 million people follow us on our social media handles.
Great.
And we are big advocates of the fight against climate change.
Yeah.
And we are thinking of it, as our slogan tells it all: make money, save the planet. So we do both. And we have a school program from very early age to take kids on a field trip, on a field physics lesson at a solar power plant. We are going to universities to tell the young pros that they can have impact on climate. And also our main, sentence in this, or statement, is that you can make money from things which are good for this world.
Right.
And you don't need to fight.
It's a great message. Great message.
Yes, it's a straight message. And you should not be against anything because we still need carbon and we still need fossil fuels. We cannot change everything at once. So you have to be patient and start to turn the direction of the flow of money in the right direction, and we're going to be good. It's not don't need to panic. And I think a lot of problem with climate change is that people are too harsh on things, and they want to, if they become radicals. And it's not that. Like being, it's going to be an evolution, not a revolution.
Well, really interesting. Right off the bat, of course, a few questions there. One, I'll just start with that. 50,000 users. What does that look like for you? What does that mean? Are those token holders? Is there some use, or what are they doing? What does that mean?
These are 50,000 users from the fiat world.
Right.
And we added with the tokenization, like the first round of the pilot was among our fiat users.
Okay.
They picked it up in 4 days. And second phase, 60-70% was still picked up by our clients, but already some new clients came in. So it's like we made so far in the blockchain world like 1,500 clients, new clients.
Okay.
But the tickets are way bigger than in the fiat world.
Right.
Like we have the average basket value is really high with us, and we are not on exchange. We are not a tradable token. Okay. We don't have a secondary market just yet because we don't need it. Like we basically tokenize our own assets, which we own in the group, and we don't need the extra money from on the shelf. What we need is that we can sell out these on blockchain, and then we reinvest immediately. All the profits are reinvested, and we pick up more and more assets in the 10 phases of SDBN. Altogether, 250 megawatts of solar power.
Wow!
And we are not just adding solar to the mix. Like from SDBN2, we started to add another investment of the group. SDBN.
That's
the token.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
And we added. We invested in a zero-emission tire recycling solution.
Oh, that's amazing.
And we brought it to prototype, and now it's already at the first clients are using it. So it's already on the market. So we are tokenizing that into the mix. And our plan, our vision is that in the 10 phases, we're going to push more and more into it, green solutions, renewables, and all that. So when you buy SDBN, you're basically buying into a green portfolio of investments, and very viable investments.
Amazing. So interesting, really, and what a great use case. So 11 years, it's a long time. Obviously, you were thinking of tokenizing 11 years ago. So how did the roots of it, what's the story of how it got started?
We started to explore the crypto world as a payment tool.
Okay.
As a lot of companies.
Right. We're going to accept Bitcoin. We're going to accept.
Yes. But still, at that time when we did that, banks didn't like you. You
they still don't.
Your business accounts, you don't take Bitcoin, take it off, and then you can stay our client. Otherwise, there's going to be a problem.
Right.
So, and that was the time when the ICO started, and that was a huge chaos on the market. So we kind of backed off.
Yep.
We didn't want to overshadow our business model with the weirdness, all the weirdness and unregulated, like Wild West Wild West era of the crypto world. But it stayed in our mind because blockchain is such a great tool to do transparent, quick, sustainable transactions,
right?
And be very global with it. And so in 2021, we revisited the topic and started to build our way on it. And how can we adopt? And in 2022, we said, like, we did all the planning. Let's do a pilot. And we did the pilot, and it was, as I told you, roaring success. So it was back to the planning table, drawing table.
Yep.
We drew up the project in 10 phases and started with the second phase, which was sold out 2-3 weeks ago.
Nice.
Now going into third phase this week, we timed it to Paris Blockchain Week.
Yeah.
And it's so that was it. I think blockchain and the crypto world needs more companies like us who look at it as a way of doing business.
Yep.
And people are fed up with the Wild West mentality of tradable coins without anything in unregulated uh, zones and wherever. People want the same kind of regulated transparency as you would want with your regular investment in the fiat financial world.
Even more sometimes.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. Well, and it provides that capability. So I know you mentioned a little bit early on about I guess, how you're producing all these megawatts of electricity. But talk to me again about that. Like, you guys own a lot of this equipment. You own a lot of solar panels.
Yes. We
Okay.
did solar power plants in Europe.
Okay.
And
Where in Europe?
in Hungary,
Yeah.
actually.
Uh-huh.
And Hungary is very pro solar.
Yes.
And it's great incentives, long-term contracts with state
Okay.
for electricity, feed-in tariff,
Uh-huh.
and so it mitigates a lot of risks for us, and good pricing for electricity too. So we
Stable
believe,
government.
and it's a southern country, also, so a lot of sunlight. It's basically we are expanding into neighboring countries
Yep.
with solar power plants. Of course, Croatia has way more sun than Hungary. That's a very southern European country, and so we are expanding in the region. But it's a comfortable region,
Yep.
risk-wise, and all the risks are mitigatable. We don't run low probability but high impact risks,
Yep.
and like we would in South America or Mexico or all those places.
Right.
And we are trying to pick up more and more assets and look beyond Europe, but only look beyond to places where it's stable, government is stable,
Yep.
and you can make long-term contracts and insurance. Because insurance is very important for our clients, that everything has to be insured.
Yeah, it makes sense. So and we're coming up here. We have a minute left. As far as how people can get involved, if someone's watching this on their TV in Texas, how can they get involved?
Well, U.S. is a very different zone.
US is tricky. We're
zone.
streaming around the world too. On our.
But you can get involved if you go to somemoney.com
Okay.
and then just hit SDBN. You will see it on the front page.
Yeah.
Hit SDBN and read everything about it. A great white paper, strong offering, and a great vision behind it. And I can tell you, most fantastic team on the world.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on. So
Thank
it's
you.
sunmoney.com. What's the Twitter?
Some Money Official or
So
something.
Sun Money Official or something like that. I'll tag it when I put this out there. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very
Really
much for
appreciate
inviting
it.
me. Thank you.
We'll see you soon. So it's Sun Money Global is their Twitter or X account. Make sure to check them out. My friend Zoltan Rendesh, as I think he pronounces it eloquently. He is based there in Hungary, back and forth from Dubai quite a bit. I think we're going to see a lot from this team and this guy. I was very impressed with the team as well. That was when I really decided, even as good as he talks, which is good, I didn't have to worry about the conversation moving forward with Zoltan. But the team a lot of times tells me more, or it tells me a lot. It tells me a lot. And very impressive team that he has around that. And I think we're going to be seeing more of it. The other thing I really liked about this was the fact they've been in business. They've been in the solar business for 10 years, and it's about making money. It's about making money. Sure, solar is going to be good. This is great electrical a way to power things. I've always liked solar, but the company has to make money. And you're going to help the earth, and you're going to help all these other things, but you're going to make money while you're doing it. And that's what I really like. So I think we'll see more of Zoltan. Thanks for joining us, Zoltan and the team. And we look forward to seeing you guys again in a few hours. We'll be back on your TVs there in Texas and Louisiana, and as well streaming around the world. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future